Alright, so welcome back. We're going to discuss the mixing setup a little bit, and then we're going to dive into setting up his mixing tank. Now, in case you hadn't guessed, we're at Jim's place. Jim already has two 300-gallon holding tanks. This one is for his RODI water. This one is for his new salt water. Jim does a lot of service business, and when you're servicing fish-only systems, typically 1021, 1020 is a good salinity for a fish-only system. But for reef tanks, most of us run natural saltwater salinity levels of 1.025 or 1.026. And while we could use this big tank for Jim's automatic water change system, its proximity to his fish tank, number one, is a problem because it's about 15 feet away, and that causes a pump issue and control issue. And two, it would be really impractical to fill up 300 gallons at 1025 when you have a lot of customers that are fish-only systems. It's a waste of salt and really unnecessary. So what we have over here is a 100-gallon holding tank, and this is going to be set up at 1025 salinity levels. He's going to have to check his salinity when he transfers new salt water over to it, and obviously adjust the salinity. It will be plumbed to this tank. He's already got a mixing pump here, and what we've done, or what he's done, is set up a separate line here that when he opens this valve here and closes this valve and with the pump on, it'll send water up over his rafters, ultimately into this tank here, so that he can transfer water from his 300-gallon saltwater holding tank directly into his 100-gallon holding tank that'll be used not only for his automatic water changes, but will also be a source of water for his customers with his reef tanks. Historically, Jim has to take 300-gallon or take water out of his 300-gallon holding tank, adjust the salinity level in a separate container before he brings it to his customer. This will give him additional 1.025 or 1.026 salinity water on tap, not only for his tank but for service customers' tanks. So it's going to serve two purposes. Number one, it'll give him good new water for reef tank customers, and most importantly, it's going to give him a good amount of water for his automatic water change system. Now, many of you know Jim. Historically, he's old school, but we at LA Fish Guys and you guys, have been helping drive him into the 20th century, and between his Apex, automatic top-off, and now automatic water changes, we're modernizing Jim. So stay tuned as we set up the holding tank. This will have a separate mixing pump, and we're going to dive into plumbing that up and getting this ready for the Renew automatic water change system. Alright, so we've got our mixing container all set up. We've got our mixing pump down here. We have union ball valves all set up, double union ball valves, so we can easily disconnect the pump. We have a nice little thing here with a spigot on it so that Jim can fill containers for clients. We do have to run a line, which we've got set up the rafter there. They'll go into the mixing container for filling it. But next step at this point is going to be to set up the Renew. Now, I touched on the Renew and the connections and stuff. There's 3 connections on the bottom. I mentioned that earlier. This one serves as a drain line that essentially, when water is pumped in through this fitting here, it will overflow, fills up here, and then overflows back through this connection, so that the mixing bins are always completely full. So again, we have an inlet here for the pump. We have an outlet here for the overflow. You've got 2 standpipes in there that ensure that there's always exactly 1 gallon in here. Never over a gallon, never under a gallon. And then you have a solenoid controlled drain that goes back to the tank. So we've got 2 of these mixing bins. We've got a template here for the mixing bin. We've already prepped some nice finished board here that we're going to mount the mixing bins to. So we'll have 2 mixing bins on here, one for new salt water and one for wastewater. We'll have a pump in the sump that'll pump out into the garage into the wastewater bin. We'll have a pump in the mixing tank here that will pump out of the mixing tank into the new salt water bin. So the next step we're going to do is mount these containers, or at least get the templates ready so they can be mounted. As I said, we've got 2 of these bins here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of set them up on each end of the board. Again, we've already got this set up. I marked and put some holes here so that we have holes in place where the studs are going to be. Now, it is very critical that these be level. That's probably one of the most critical factors with this. I mentioned that earlier, that they're not level. It will not fill evenly. Couple pilot holes going there. Make sure our paper is still square. Okay, that's one mixing bin. This one. To offset it a bit. I cut these boards a little bit longer than they needed to be so that kind of keep the bare edge hidden behind some wood he's got there. I'm just going to mount on the wall. Okay, just double check, make sure we're in square, pretty square, square there, finish these holes. We'll have screws go into here that these things actually hang on. So right there, they're mixing bins, and for reference, these things are going to get mounted on the wall back there in the garage behind his RODI. The next step is going to be the controller panel, which that'll go right here. This is our controller template. I'll find out here, figure out halfway down, so I can get a center point on this. And this is a 12-inch piece of wood. So we'll mark a center on here at about 6 inches. That way we've got this centered on the wood. Center. Left to right center. Like the other, I cut this a little bit long. I know there was 18¼ inches, so right around 9 1/8 is going to be roughly our center point there. And to make my life easy, I'm going to fold this paper in half. So I've got to center the controller, the template. Those are our mounting points for our new controller. Alright, so our next step now that we have both boards laid out is going to be to mount these on the wall. And again, it is critical that these boards be mounted level. If they're not level, our bins are going to be off, and the amount of water that we put in or the amount of water we take out might be slightly off, at which point you might have a little bit of salinity drift. So, next step is going to be to kind of get up in there and mount our boards. Be right back.
At some point, there comes a time in everyone's professional career where they must move forward. They must embrace that next leap of technology. I've been building and maintaining aquariums for 31 years, and I've always shied away from the latest gadgets, the newest lights, those high-tech fancy controller systems. I didn't get on board initially because I knew they were not long-term field tested. But even later, I still avoided these controllers and monitors because they seemed overly complex, and no surprise, I'm the furthest thing from a techie kind of guy. After now being introduced to the Apex system by Scott, I realized that 2016 was the year for me to have my electric moment. So what changed? Neptune Systems has been creating aquarium monitoring and controlling systems for nearly 18 years. So they've been around for a long time. But over the last few years, they snuck up on me and created a system to monitor your aquarium from anywhere in the world and control all the devices without having to be an electrical engineer. Okay, so you've got my attention now. The system is called Apex, and the cloud-based software it comes with is called Apex Fusion. Apex Fusion is the recent improvement that has made it so super simple. Using the step-by-step Get Started guide, the Apex was easy to install and get connected up to their Apex Fusion cloud-based control. In only a matter of minutes, I got the basics going and could monitor all the tank's vital signs: temperature, pH, ORP, salinity, water levels, leaks, and tons more from anywhere in the world. It'll even send me text messages. That 24/7 monitoring is key because it's the insurance policy against the top failures that will destroy not only your livestock, but your ultimate enjoyment of the aquarium hobby as well. If that alone was not enough, the Apex is the Swiss Army knife for your tank. It can control many different aspects of the aquarium that often require many discrete pieces of equipment. This can save tons of money, from pump control to dawn to dusk dimming of lights to dosing control. It does it all. My revelation for 2016? I think the Apex is a key component of a successful aquarium. And remember, if I say it's easy to set up and use, that says it all. So, your cool nano reef tank is doing great, but you've got an algae problem? Consider the drop from Santa Monica Filtration. 7 sizes to easily fit into the filter compartment of most nano tanks. And just like their bigger cousins, the Hog and the Surf, all use air bubbles and LED light technology to grow algae. Algae that consumes nutrients. And that algae replaces itself at no new cost to you. For more information on Santa Monica Filtration's Drop, Hog, and Surf algae scrubbers, visit santa-monica.cc.
Hi, I'm Eric Cohen of Blue Life USA. Let me show you my product line. Clear FX Pro, filter media in a bag. Comes in 3 sizes for freshwater and saltwater. New technology, new resins, removes phosphates, organics, and clarifies water. Safety Stop, quarantine treatment for freshwater and marine fish. Our Blue Vet RX product line consists of phosphate, aptasia, red cyano, and flatworm remedies. And our watercolors aquarium background comes in colors black and blue, available in 4 different sizes. Blue Life USA, aquarium products found in retail stores across the country. Or for more information, visit us at bluelifeusa.com.
Welcome back to LA Fishguys Aquarium Tech Talk. Automatic water change and the Renew installation. So we're in the home stretch. We've got our boards and stuff mounted, so we're ready to start connecting the hoses and mounting the bins and mounting the equipment. I've had some hoses here soaking in hot water so we can stretch them over the larger lines. Unfortunately, we didn't have 5/8 inch hose, so we're making do. Those we got. I'm gonna have this thing soaking here, so we're gonna stretch that over. This is for the overflow line. As I said, there's 3 connections per bin. One for the pump, one for the overflow back to the source water, and then one to drain back to the target. So, for example, the wastewater bin has 3 connections. One of them is kicking my butt. As I mentioned earlier, there's 3 connections. One from the pump that fills the bin, one that overflows back to wherever that pump is. So in the case of the wastewater, there'll be a pump in the sump and a overflow line that goes back to the sump. And then of course the third line, which is a solenoid control one, that in Jim's case is going to go to the drain behind his washing machine. We'll get to that when we connect that here in a bit. Just about got this line on here, nice. Alright. Got that one ready. We'll connect the other hoses in a minute. This hose here is going to be for new salt water. This metering bin will be for the new salt water, so I need to stretch this hose over this line here. Again, this is the overflow line that is going to go back into the new salt water tank. Stretched over there. Alright, that's good. Make sure that one's on all the way. This is our wastewater bin. I've already got another hose here that, in this case, will go to this bin here. Get that hose around there and connect it to the other side. It's nice, it goes on real easy when you got the right size hose. And of course the third line here, we'll connect that in a little bit. That's going to connect to the drain line that'll go into the drain behind his washing machine. So this is wastewater metering bin. Got our other connections here, the new saltwater bin. We've got our pump connection here. And the last connection is the drain back to the sump. So just to recap, this line here is going to connect to the pump in his mixing station tank. This line here is going to overflow back to the mixing station, so when it fills up the bin, it'll overflow a little bit to ensure that the bin is 100% full, exactly 1 gallon in there. Once it's full, the float sensor is in there, will sense that the bin is full. The system will stop and it'll go into the next mode, which is drain, at which point the solenoid here will open up. Last bit that we have here is the connection. This connects to the renew. And on the bottom of the renew, there's 2 ports on there, which we'll get into to connect the waste bin and the new saltwater bins. So, next step is to mount this up on the wall. As I said, we've already got our board set up back there. Let's get this out of our way, and the first bin we're going to mount up is going to be our wastewater bin. Okay. Next step is going to be to mount the new saltwater bin. Already got our hoses all connected up to it. So, move that cord, twist it off a bit. And let's get this puppy up here. Always the fun part is lining up 2 little screws. Boy, must be my lucky day. Those just lined right up and got them right on. Now we've got our bins on there. Got our wastewater hose here that will go in through the top. Or actually, this is new saltwater overflow hose. Really, we didn't need to cut this that long. So Jim's going to have some extra tubing here. We'll cut it off inside the tank. Untwist this here. Drain properly. Alright, that'll siphon into this whole new tank, okay? Hose cutter here. this line here going to be for his pump. Now, one thing that we do need to do, because we are running these into the barrel here, is we need to pop one more hole in the top of the barrel for the pump cord, and we're going to put a fitting on the pump cord, or a connector on the pump cord, I should say, since we got to cut the plug off. Bottom like it should. Right one there. So next step is to connect our pump, which is right here. A glass of hot water would have helped. Crimper over it. Actually, this one I'm just going to use a zip tie. I know you're thinking we should have used clamps. Probably right. We don't have enough right now, so we'll address those later. We need to cut this connector off here, and we'll screw on. We'll have another connector on there. Screw on. Pop a little hole in the top of the container. Where are my step bits? Where did my step bit go?
Clean work area is a safe and happy work area. Spend all day long cleaning up after this guy.
Oh yeah. My method to my madness. Keyword being madness. Pop a hole up here for the power cord for the pump. Here so we don't lose that. Alright, so we're just assembling our new power plug for the pump. So I had to cut the plug off to get it through the bin. Good connection there. Reassemble Johnny 5. Alright, so now our pump has a plug on it. Because of the length of the different plugs and stuff like that, we've had to run some extension cords and stuff like that to connect these things. So we'll just drop that into there. We're going to need an extension cord here shortly when we start doing our fittings. Alright, so the next item of business is our gravity-fed waste line here. All the drains on this system, they gravity feed, so you have to take that into consideration when you mount stuff. The overflow line from the metering bins, gravity feeds back to the source water. So wastewater gravity feeds back to the sump. New salt water gravity feeds back to the new salt water on the overflow line. And in this case, we've got our waste line here, and that is going into his washing machine drain. And I want to get that kind of in there so it doesn't, splash out. It's kind of a tight space to be working in for sure. We've also got his RODI lines that go into here too. So kind of move that out of our way. So get this thing in there. All right, so we've got all our plumbing lines run in the garage. The last thing as far as plumbing goes is to hook up the pump underneath this tank. That would be the wastewater pump. So that'll just take us a moment to do. So stay tuned for the next part where we'll hook up the last pump, and then the next thing will be to set up the Renew controller and do the connections. Stay tuned.